think of movement. I think of twirls and spins. I think of dance.
Is that even possible?
Disney's The Little Mermaid, an intimate tale set against an epic backdrop, included a breathtaking, lifelike underwater environment that marveled its viewers. Directed and produced by visionary filmmaker Rob Marshall, the behind the scenes of this movie is as fascinating as the movie itself. We're here to serve you with all the information about how Marshall made this movie possible. Keep watching. Halle Bailey plays Ariel, a vibrant mermaid with a wonderful voice and a thirst for adventure that will take her above the surface to another world inhabited by humans. The film is ambitious in scope, yet grounded in reality. The Little Mermaid also had a previous animated adaptation of the 1837 tale, which was released on November 13, 1989, becoming the studio's first fairy tale-based movie since 1959's Sleeping Beauty. The story of Ariel, who is voiced by Jodie Benson, directed by Ron Clement and John Musker, with music by the legendary Hans Christian Andersen and Howard Ashman, revived Disney, grossing over $230 million, winning 2 Oscars and starting a long run of successful animated films for the studio. To start the procedure of filming The Little Mermaid of 2023, it was necessary to ascertain Rob Marshall's conception of how mermaids would move underwater. During the pre-production stage, a grayscale mermaid was made without any specific designs as part of animation tests. Tim Burke collaborated with animation supervisors Pablo Grillo and Ferran Domènech to create animations that reflected the director's ideal look. Marshall is renowned for his history in musical theater and choreography. The team decided on the cinematography and technical aspects of the production after the desired movements were set. Due to the physical limitations of the performers being held in rigs, it became clear that the majority of the mermaid figures would need to be animated. To maintain live-action performances, the team tried to capture the performers' faces during filming. Steve Warner, the special effects supervisor, was entrusted with creating rigs that, despite being manually handled, provided the performers on set with the greatest amount of flexibility of movement. Basic scene blocking was documented on camera with a Sony A7, providing editor Wyatt Smith with information to work with. Marshall and the group were able to visualize the timing and mood of each scene thanks to the rehearsal process. In Avatar: The Way of Water, a tank was chosen where actors acted out their roles while holding their breath. In contrast to The Little Mermaid, which employed a dry-for-wet blue screen arrangement. Even though the CGI in Avatar is better, it's crucial to remember that the movie's pre-production, production, and post-production phases took place over a longer period and had a greater budget. Therefore, in terms of cost-effectiveness, using a blue screen was perhaps the greatest choice for The Little Mermaid. Each underwater scene had to be planned beforehand, since visual effects supervisor Tim Burke had to digitally build them in post-production. The decision of the directors to use a dry-for-wet technique, where performers would record their underwater scenes on land in a blue screen setting, using a variety of cutting-edge setups including cables, teeter-totters, and tuning forks. The performers were frequently fastened to a harness that had a balance to imitate movement underwater. The team had to come up with inventive techniques to portray life beneath the waters, because a sizable amount of the movie takes place underwater. Michael Cook, Charles Emanuel, and Entertainment Tonight recently released a new behind-the-scenes video that provides an inside look at the film's production and demonstrates how the underwater sections were recorded. Watch as Bailey engages with actors wearing blue outfits or puppets as the action is being projected onto a blue screen. Dion Beebe, The Little Mermaid's director of photography, thought he would need to create intricate lighting effects to replicate the illusion of being underwater in order to support the dry-for-wet strategy. He stated that his gaffer and himself created water trays for theatrical moving lights that would suspend above the sets, through which light could be projected. While all of this was going on, the art department and production designer, John Meyer, spent numerous hours looking over and analyzing nautical footage, documentaries, and still photos of real underwater worlds that would eventually shape the style of each underwater set. From the lighter blue of the ocean surface near Ariel's grotto to the dark purple tones that conceal Ursula's evil kingdom in the ocean's depths. Each has its own design concept with subtly varied color palettes and tones. The color scheme used to create King Triton's underwater domain was jewel tone-like, and took color cues from actual coral and anemones. With an homage to the Manhattan skyline of the 1930s, Meyer created it to resemble a bustling city where everything was made of gorgeous, enormous coral pillars, anemones, reefs, and other materials. Making sure the performers had control over their motions and weren't just being controlled by the rigs was one of the problems of underwater filming. Different rigs were created by the team so that the actors, particularly Halle Bailey, could direct their performance. The rigs were manually moved about the stage and featured many axes of rotation. Puppeteers helped with the acting by picking up the actor by the hips, while Halle used her upper body to create underwater movement, controlling actions with her head and arms. This method produced a smooth and organic flow of movement. The group practiced the rig for several weeks, giving the actors time to make adjustments if the rig didn't allow them to move as they had hoped. While some pictures were created digitally with CG characters, others were filmed as live action. Rob Marshall was able to concentrate on directing the performers' emotive performances during the production because of the thorough planning. For the live-action footage of the underwater scenes, only the actors' faces and hands were used to create the appropriate mermaid image. The production crew used cutting-edge technology to generate realistic and aesthetically pleasing hair for the mermaid characters in order to overcome the difficulties of underwater hair movement. To get the required appearance, a combination of simulation and hand animation was used. Getting reference materials together was the first step. High-speed cameras were used to record underwater video in order to observe the hair's organic movement in the water. Understanding the mechanics and movement of hair underwater, which provided the foundation for computer-generated hair simulations, was made possible by this reference material. The mermaid character's digital hair was created in close collaboration with a team of animators and hair specialists. To begin, they meticulously modeled each character's hair in 3D, accounting for its length, texture, and style. Then, using specialized software that precisely mimicked hair's behavior in water, the hair was simulated. The digital hair strands were subjected to actual forces during the simulation, including drag, buoyancy, and gravity. To achieve realistic movement and to match the reference material, these forces were precisely adjusted. To further enhance the realism of the hair motion, the simulation also concentrated on the surrounding water environment, including water currents and turbulence. The production team had the difficult task of creating a visually appealing and realistic environment for the aquatic realm of The Little Mermaid. The technique involves two crucial steps: creating the undersea environment and applying cutting-edge visual effects. Conceptualizing the appearance and feel was the initial stage in building the underwater environment. For the underwater scenes, the production team worked with great concept artists and designers to create a distinctive and captivating style. To create a visually appealing and coherent setting, they drew inspiration from a variety of sources, including aquatic life, coral reefs, and fantasy aspects. The next step involved turning the concepts into actual sets and digital assets once the concept had been defined. Intricate underwater sets were built for realistic sets, using a combination of effects, props, and set extensions to create the appearance of a vast underwater environment. The undersea world was given important attention to detail, with additions like vibrant corals, undulating seaweed, and hidden treasures, giving it depth and authenticity. The Little Mermaid thus remains one of the most fascinating movies Disney has produced, and now you know all about the effort that went behind it. If you love this video, subscribe to our channel and show you love it by liking and sharing it.